Hey folks, and welcome to this example of playthrough of Operation Starlight. This is the first operational scenario in Vietnam, 1965 to 1975. Let me give you a brief glimpse of the box set there. I have played through this scenario, but I'm really trying to repeat it to give myself some practice. I think the more I can repeat these basics, hopefully the more proficient I get and the better I understand the tactics. The rulebook is pretty good, but it's a really different game. The biggest challenge in the rulebook is just how unusual everything is about this game. So I'm mostly set up. I have got, let me run you through everything. I kind of did this earlier in a previous video. I've got third Marine, then the second, fourth, third Marine, and a battalion of 155 millimeter artillery. Then I've got down here the 3rd, 7th, 1st with their 7th, 1st Marine HQ. Now, I have got two NLF unknown units. One is the 70th Regiment, the other is a political section. And just to make things interesting, I don't know which one's which, and I'm going to place them randomly in one of these two hexes. So 1 to 3 here, 4 to 6 here. So we have a 1 to 3 here, and then 4 to 6 here. So they're setting up in different locations. Now, one of these will be, basically for this operation, the political section will almost serve as a dummy. It can't really do much, and it will be wiped out once it's engaged in combat. But the Americans have to effectively scout out and find which unit is actually the regiment and destroy it or force it to leave, I believe, this region. So only playing in this Quang Ngai I-5 region, and if that regiment leaves it or is forced to retreat, the Americans win. The Allied player wins if the VC regiment is dispersed, broken down, eliminated, or leaves, but no US units are eliminated. So if that regiment, the 70th Regiment, can eliminate just one American unit, then they win. Okay, so in the previous times I've played this, once the VC won, the VC lost. They forced the Americans forced them to retreat basically off the map. They had no choice, basically. They had to do that. Okay, some special rules. So the NLF units have their movement allowance. They've got a movement allowance of 6 normally. They both are the same. So we can move them 6 without knowing what they are, but they're reduced by 2 for all purposes. So they're down to 4. And all other sort of alert, reaction movement, retreat is also reduced by 2. So that really limited them, and that's actually what got them killed in the previous time I played this. There are no free fire zones, so the Allies cannot declare free fire zones. The NLF cannot declare strategic movement, and that's about it. Okay, so we're going to get into it. We start the sequence of play with the support phase. Now we have got, I will point out, and I've got charts all over the place, but I'll very briefly, I'll summarize rather than getting the camera all a mess. I will tell you that there is one US air mobile point. We have our 6 strength cruiser sitting off the coast here. You can see it can shoot over 2 dots, means 2 intervening hexes. So it's basically a range up to around here. Well, it can probably move, I assume. I don't think it has to sit there. I think it can move. Actually, I think we place it in a certain phase. We've also got 4 air points. We have got no ARVN ranges, but 4 US replacement points. Now the NLF have got 4 VC replacement points, and that's basically what we're burning through. So let me show you how this all works, and I will point out also, I'm learning. So it is very likely I'll make some mistakes, and this is why I'm repeating this, so I can work through those errors, learn as I go. I think I've got most things understood, but yeah, let's run through and see how we go. So the way this works, as I said, support phase, Indicate this on the record sheet, place markers on the records track, flip ships to their unused side. That's pretty much all done. Special operations designation. Allied player marks any units on hold or patrol operations. That's not happening. We are on a mission to seek and destroy this 70th Regiment. So we're not going to be holding nor patrolling. We're going to be rushing out there. We now get to the operations phase. Okay, so we start with the designation segment of the sequence of play. Okay, so the NLF player decides whether they or the Allied player will conduct an operation. Now the advice is that the NLF should go first, and I'm very happy to do that. Basically, the problem for the NLF at the start is that they're in these very vulnerable grasslands locations. Oh, actually, that's a part cultivated, so they could treat that as cultivated, but they don't want to be here. They want to be up in the hills where they can take advantage of these negative dice roll modifiers. -3 up in the mountains, -2 in these, -1 in the hills, -2 in the forested hills. What have we got here? That's jungle, -1 in the jungle. So they want to get through here to the west. Okay, so they're going to say, no, we will be conducting an operation. Our operation will be a search and destroy. Okay, so this is where we get to the operations flowchart. The flowcharts in this game are brilliant. We say begin operation, NLF LX to operate. Yes, they execute an operation, search and destroy, see diagram A. We then flip over to diagram A. We follow this sequence of play. Search and destroy, designate the operating units. Okay, so we have got 2 operating units. They have been designated. Is this an allied search and destroy op? No. Declare 1 target hex. Pretty straightforward. Now, why I'm going to designate this as the target hex. Why am I doing that? The reason I'm doing this is because the target hex is exempt from reaction movement. If these guys end their movement adjacent to American forces, those American forces can react. So if I end up here, for example, these guys can react. But if I end up adjacent to the target hex, and the target hex is exempt from reaction, they cannot react. That's kind of my crude understanding. So it's good to set, I don't have to attack the target hex, but by designating that the target hex, it's basically saying I'm designating my resources on this hex, I'm trying to tie them down, and they will not be able to react to my activities. All right, so I've designated the target hex. Then I declare enable support. This is American, so this is not going to happen here because it's a NLF, an NLF operation. We then move the units. Okay, so again, I don't know what these units are. This could be the 70th Regiment. It could be the political section. It doesn't matter. They both have a movement of 6 minus 2 is 4. Okay, so again, I don't want to move adjacent to this enemy. I want to kind of try and move through here. So I'm going to go, it is, okay, the cost to move into this cultivated area, this is, they're both foot units as well. And I'll show you the terrain effects chart very briefly. So it's all quite summarized here. So a lot of cultivated area around here. These are foot units 1, okay? So we spend 1 to move in there, plus 1 to exit an enemy zone of control. In this game, you pay to exit enemy zones of control. So it's 1, 2 to move there, and then 3, 4 to exit that zone of control. They are now complete. Their ops are complete, and they're pretty much done for the turn. Okay. The next unit, and the NLF player will be, well, they can look at these, okay, but I'm kind of playing this solo. So I'll be going 1 into the grasslands, plus 1 to exit an enemy zone of control, and then 1, 2 to exit an enemy zone of control. And I'm done. So I have used all 4 of my available 4 movement. Again, it's 6 minus 2. 1, 2 to go there, and then 1, 2 to move up there. And again, I could, if I was, I could look at these if I was the NLF player, but as the Americans. I'm trying to give myself the element of surprise, and this is what makes this scenario kind of challenging. Okay, so offensive interdiction, no. There are no VC defenders because I am the VC. Are there target units in adjacent hexes? There are, yes. Are there operating units in the target hex? No. Does the operating player want to attack? No. So in this case, I could attack here. I don't want to. I want to get as quickly as possible to the high ground. I mean, even if I were to attack here, the Americans are still quite strong in this area, so I kind of want to get out of here. So no, I don't want to attack. Operating units, that's the American option here. So then we return to begin operation. Okay, so they are now complete. The NLF is done. It is now begin operation. Does the NLF elect to operate? Well, no, because they have nothing left they can do. They're out of options. Both of their units have conducted their one operation. They've moved, conducted their search and destroy. They're now done. So it's now they have to pass it over to the Allies. Are the Allies willing to operate? Most certainly are. They execute an operation. They are also going to do a search and destroy. They designate their operating units. So we remove that target. We have got these guys operating and these guys operating. Now, don't think we designate the cruiser as operating. It's a support unit. We then, is this an Allied search and destroy op? Yes. So normally here we'd roll for Arvin Rangers, and there's a chance we'd bring them onto the board. This is not part of this scenario. There are specifically no Arvin Rangers here. We then declare a target hex. Okay, let's try and clear up. This is where, again, so there's a lot of little tactical elements to this, and I'm learning, so I don't really know what the best tactic here is. Is it best to go for the one right next to me or the one off in the distance off here? What I need to basically find out where the political section is and where the 70th Regiment is. And the way I'm going to do that, so to kind of unpack the details of these formations, the 1st Marine have got their headquarters with, critically, their 8 strength headquarters artillery with them. So this headquarters can add 8 support strength to an adjacent attack. Okay. These guys, however, the 3rd Marines, they don't have attached headquarters. We do have an independent 155mm battalion with a strength of 7, which can shoot 1 hex away. So look, just looking at this now, without these guys wouldn't have to move, and I could target this hex if it's the 70th Regiment. I could throw everything right now at that 70th Regiment. Again, I did not commit my air support. I don't want to do that until I know where the 70th are. So I want to root out the political section first. This could be it. And if I've committed my air units to this operation and I attack, and this turns out to be the dummy, I've wasted my air units for this operation. And I think for the scenario, I don't know if I get them back. I'm a little confused about when air units come back, but anyway, we'll cover that later. Okay, so I'm going to say this is my target unit, and I'm going to, what am I going to do? Yeah, let's send in one of these battalions. So they're going to go 1. Okay, from here it is, another interesting about this game is that both sides can occupy the same hex. So what we're going to do here is move into this target hex. This is so unusual. Okay, so I'm going to go 1 and then 1, 2 to exit the zone of control. Okay, for a total movement of 3. They've got a movement 8, so they can easily make this. Now, here's where it gets interesting. I have moved one of these units, and immediately, I believe, immediately upon entering or ending my movement, the NLF, the VC unit in this hex gets to conduct what's called an alert movement. I think it's called alert movement. They don't get to react because they're the target hex, but they do get an alert. And then the alert movement is equal to 1d6 plus the movement, the foot movement cost of the target hex, which is 1. So they get to move 3. Plus 1 is 4. Okay. So again, we still don't know what they are. All right, this is the target hex. Where are they going to move to? Oops. They are going to... Now bear in mind, okay, there's Americans in their hex, so it's now plus 2 to leave that hex. They could go up here towards the mountains. That'd be 1, 2 to cross the river, and then 3, 4. Let's do that, okay? So they're going to try and slip away. Lucky they rolled that 3. I think if they rolled a 2 or less, they wouldn't have been able to do anything. So that's their alert move. Alert roll, alert move, I think it's called. -2 for the scenario. Hold on a sec. Hold on. -2 for all moves. Okay, this is where it is interesting. Because the it's 3 plus 1 for the terrain is 4 -2. Now, because there are American units in that target hex, they have a movement of 0. They cannot leave it. Okay, so they're stuck there, which means there's going to be a fight. The Americans declare they're going to attack this target VC unit. Let's figure out what it is. It's the 70th Regiment. We've found them. Okay. So they are in the hex. I'll just put this little target marker there. They're in the hex. We know this is a political section now. Okay, so that's all been resolved. Okay, let's cover each step one at a time. So we have found the 70th Regiment. What next? Okay. Can they disperse as well? Oh, yes, they could. Okay, so I believe they can also do what's called a dispersal move. And this is where they basically completely disperse into the jungle. On the first round of the operation, VC units in the target hex may be removed from the map, and the VC replacement pool is increased by the ground combat strength. In this case, this 6 strength unit would be removed, and the VC would get 6 replacements if this were a larger sort of scenario. In this one, however, if the regiment is dispersed, the VC lose. So we don't want that to happen. So they are going to hold with our own fight. Okay, so we could conduct what's called offensive interdiction. This is where we can increase the movement costs to leave a hex for both sides. Now this could be, okay, we could draw upon our cruiser here to conduct interdiction. We could call upon our artillery up here. However, okay, the problem here is that this is it's a non-free fire zone, which means that all our costs, so this cruiser is effectively halved in its strength. Now, because we're basically trying to slow down this unit, they've got 4 VC replacements, and I'm trying to slow them down, stop them getting to the hills. It might be worth, I'm going to try it actually, because I didn't do it in the first time I played this. I'm going to use my cruiser at 6 SP, reduced to 3, to conduct offensive interdiction in that hex. And I don't know if there's an offensive interdiction kind of marker. Lots of little markers, target hex. There may well be, I've got little effective patrol markers. I can't see anything that says interdiction. So I'm guessing maybe not. I've got my counter tray, but yeah, can't see anything that says interdiction. So, okay, let's just remember that this hex is being interdicted, and it's going to cost all forces, including the Americans, +1 movement point to leave that hex. Okay, so I've used up my cruiser naval support on interdiction. We then go to defensive interdiction. We don't want to use that because the VC really want to be moving away quickly. So this is where we announce the attack. Okay, so maybe, okay. One step at a time. I probably wouldn't, having not known what was there, I probably wouldn't have declared the cruiser just yet. All right, so I won't do that. Now we announce the attack and reveal VC units. Now the defender chooses the terrain they're in, and it's cultivated, not great defensive terrain. We now determine total combat modifiers. Okay, this is where it gets tricky. So we have, what have we got in this combat? And again, there's another little table somewhere for, I thought there was, +maybe not. Or maybe it's just summaries all over the place. So what have we got here? Okay, so we have got 3 + 3 is 6 attacking Americans. These guys are... It's interesting. I don't know if you do all movement first or you have to... Because I've moved, I think I reveal them straight away. Could I have... Anyway, these guys are out of range, basically. But so I've got 6 plus my support. And keep in mind, my support is going to be halved. I've got my cruiser for 6, +7 is 13, plus, luckily, this headquarters is right next to it. So what was that? 13, 21, which is 10.5 support points, which gives me a total attacking strength of 16. Hold on a sec. Hold on. 16.5 versus defense strength of 6 plus their 2 intrinsic support. So this little number in the middle of the VC counter is their intrinsic artillery support that they can only use to help themselves. So 6 strength plus 2 gives them a strength of 8. So I've got 16.5 to 2, which is just above 2 to 1. And on the CRT, a 2 to 1 ratio gives us a +2 dice roll modifier. That's for the combat ratio. We then also add a modifier for the terrain, but in cultivated terrain, the modifier is 0. And this is why the VC want to head west. So I'm looking at a +2 dice roll modifier. I'm going to keep this here because we'll need this in just a moment. Okay, +2 dice roll modifier to our attack. We now look at this interesting combat results table. I'll roll the die first and then we'll look at it. A 3, which is pretty average. All right, so we've got a 3 + 2, which gives us a result of 5. Okay, that's it. They're the modifiers. 3 + 2, result of 5. This gives us, in a moment, our pursuit allowance. This is going to be needed because it's probably first round of combat, so we're going to have a +2 pursuit. I'll make a note of that. Okay, we're going to use that later. We then calculate, I think we do defender first. Diagram D, apply casualties. Find the die roll. Defender first. Yep. Okay, so we rolled a 5. The defender has a strength of 6 and the attacker's support is 10.5. So their total, in effect, defensive value is 16.5. So we go to 5 and then we look for 16.5, which is this 4th column here. 5, 16.5 is a loss of 1. We've got the second number here for the defender, which means that the VC have lost 1 step. Okay, when you lose steps, you have to lose, is it called a step loss? They've got 1 strength of losses to allocate. They could remove their 6 strength unit. Okay, it's a lot to lose for just 1 strength loss. The VC would then get 5 extra replacements, but then they'd lose the game, lose this scenario. Instead, as I said earlier, they've got 4 reinforcement points, and they can use these reinforcement points to satisfy these step losses. So they're 4 off on my general information track over there, where it says VC replacements 4. It now goes down to 3. So the Americans have caused 1 hit, basically, on those VC replacements. And that's the VC losses satisfied. What about the Americans? Well, they had a strength of 6, and the VC had 2 support for a strength of 8. So we look at 5, and then we go the column that has 8 on it is here, 5, 8. Attacker is first for a 0. So the Americans don't lose any step losses at all as a result of this combat. And I'll just check chart D. And the other thing we're checking here as well is potential support losses, but there was none, so we may lose an air mobile point or an air support point. But yes, with a result of 5, there's nothing there. Okay, so now the defender has to retreat. So any target unit surviving the attack may now move their full movement allowance in any direction. Okay, so we'll put these Americans here because that's where they'll be. That's the target hex. These guys have a movement allowance of 6, minus 2 for all purposes in this scenario, so they can move 4. Their ops are still complete. They're going to try and get to these hills, but they can't quite make it. So we know. Okay, let's go. It's going to be tricky as well because it is plus 2 to leave an enemy occupied hex. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3. Actually, you know what? Let's head up this way. 1, 2 to cross the river, and then 3, 4 for leaving an enemy occupied hex, which gives us our total of 4, and they must stop there. Yeah, I'm just trying to get to these mountains up here, these hills. So that's the plan. Okay, now, however, we have what's called defensive reserve activation. When do we get our pursuit? Pursuit is next. Defensive reserve activation. Now, I haven't used this before, so let me just double check. Defensive reserve activation. Okay, if I'm defending, no, okay. Americans aren't defending, so they don't get to use that, sorry. We now, however, get our pursuit. And our pursuit movement allowance. So this is basically, I should point out as well, so any hexes occupied by target units now become the target hex. So this now becomes the target hex in the operation's new round. Okay, pursuit. So these guys won the combat. Yay, they're feeling pretty good. They have pursuit movement points, and these guys as well, because they joined in too. Right, so these are the guys that are operating. They get movement points equal to the pursuit result, which is plus 2, plus the unit's pursuit modifier, which is plus 3 for a total of 5. And that's it. So we get 5, which means that these guys can quite easily go 1, 2 to cross the river, 3 because it's an enemy, leaving an enemy zone control. And can these guys make it? They can go, maybe they can go, so they're operating, they can go 1, 2, 3, 4, I think they can actually. Do I want to? Or I can go 1, 2, 3, 4. I can just go straight in there, I guess. Easily satisfy. Now, this headquarters here cannot pursue. What are the special rules around headquarters? Headquarters can't pursue, but I believe I can give them an air. I'm just thinking as well, do I need to... I think to be clear, I should have designated those units as... No, naval unit can be added, declare air naval support. Declare air naval support. So I had to declare naval support, air support. I didn't declare my air support. I'm just wondering, did I have to activate these guys as well? Did they need to be marked as operating in effect? I'm not sure about that. I think they did. Okay, which was the intent anyway. So let's just say they're operating too. And what was I checking? I was checking if they can pursue. So they can't pursue unless. Okay, yes, so such allied units may be air mobilized, granting them a +0 pursuit modifier. All right, so they'd have a 0 pursuit modifier, but they get the benefit of this pursuit modifier +2. So I'd be able to move this headquarters up into here. However, I've only got one air mobile point available, and I think this is for the entire scenario. So the question is, do I use this now? It will give me a nice +8 to combat. I think there's some, I can't recall, but I think there's some penalty for having a low. So these guys would only get +2. They'd be able to go, 1. They can move in there. I'm trying to think of what the penalties are for having a low pursuit unit. But look, I think it's a good opportunity. So let's try it. Let's airlift these guys in. So I've used my 1 air mobile point available to move my artillery up to there to help pursue. All right, so that's not movement, it's pursuit. I can use an air mobile point to make a unit air mobile capable during the pursuit. Otherwise, that headquarters wouldn't be able to move, and I wouldn't be able to use them in what I hope will be an ensuing combat. Okay, so the pursuit has happened. Okay, offensive reserve. Now we get an offensive reserve. Any allied unit eligible to participate in an operation may be assigned and move its full MP. So now these guys can go 1, 2, 3, I think. And they're done. Now we remove interdiction markers. I'm just following the flow chart here. We're up to here. It's not a clear and secure. Remove interdiction markers. Are there any target units? Yes, there are. Are there operating units in the target hex? Yes, there are. No offensive interdiction. No, I've used this, right? So I don't think they can be used again. Now hold on. Round of operation complete. All support points are available again. All support points. Does that include naval support? Naval gunfire. Ship's going to be assigned to 1 operation per turn. Replace the ship in its holding box. Okay, to 1 operation. Okay, but this is just This is still the same operation, just the second round. So the question is, do they become... Ships can be used once each round. Yes, they can. Excellent. So each round of an operation. So they are available again. Okay, so the ships are available. In this case, so now I'm going to use... I know they're there, so I'm going to use my offensive interdiction halved to make it +1 movement point for the NLF to leave this hex. Okay, I'm then announcing the attack. They're already revealed, so I don't have to reveal them. The defender chooses a terrain. I think they've only got cultivated terrain in this hex now. Yep, so they are defending in cultivated terrain. Pretty much the same, but actually got slightly reduced because I'm not using my naval gunfire. So I've got my 8 plus 7 is 15, divided by 2 is 7.5. So I have got 13.5 versus 8. So it's not quite 2 to 1. It is going to be a ratio of 3 to 2, which is still going to give me a +1 modifier. And again, the cultivated terrain won't add anything at all. And the die roll is another 3. So this time it's 3 plus 1, giving me a result of 4. Okay, it's going to be very similar to last, and in fact, almost identical. Oh, actually, no, slightly different. We're going to have 8. The defender's going to have 8 plus 7.5 is 15. It's still the same area. So 4, another 1 loss to the VC. Again, we're going to reduce the VC replacements. So they're down to 2. And the Americans have got 6. Oh, we've got more strength now. We've got 9. We've got 9 strength. Actually, does that change anything? Because I brought the other American unit up. So 9 plus 7.5 is 16.5, which is 2 to 1, which is a +2 modifier, which does put it on the 5, which has exactly the same combat result, 1 loss in the VC. Does it change the American result? So they're going to have 9 plus 2 is 11. Nope. 0 losses again for the Americans. So the Americans are slowly chipping away at this VC unit. That's the end of combat. The VCs took 1 reinforcement loss on the general records chart over there. The Americans took nothing. The VC have now to retreat. Okay, so we'll leave the Americans there. They can move their full movement allowance, but they're kind of in trouble now. Okay, so they it's going to be +2 to leave the hex. So they can go 1, 2 to cross the river, 3, 4, hold on. They can't, in fact, here we go. All right. Because I did the +1 interdiction for all movement, it's another +1 to leave this hex. So it's going to be, they can go down here. They can go 1 here because they don't have to cross the river. 1, 2, 3 to leave an enemy occupied hex. +1 is 4. So it's their full movement to move alongside the board here. And this is very similar to what happened last time I played. They just got squeezed out. And this is what the Americans, well, this is my understanding of the tactics, is the Americans are trying to really limit VC movement by interdiction and stuff like that. Okay, we've applied casualties. We now, round of operation is complete. All support points are available again. We have the same pursuit value of +2. The retreat has been conducted. We now get to a pursuit, and we don't have far to pursue this time. The only challenge is this time this headquarters can't join in because I'm out of my air. So I'm going to move 1 unit in there, and I'm just going to leave the other 2. Okay, there's no advantage to being in the hex aside from the movement penalty. Okay, so if I keeping these guys here, I'm kind of forcing the VC off the regional edge. And if I can force them to retreat in this direction, then, you know what, in fact, what if I do... No, I need to actually... do I need to be in their hex? And do they have to retreat? Yeah, okay, so I can't... they're allowed to end their retreat in a non-enemy occupied hex. So if I'll have to basically move there. Yep, okay, we'll do that. All right, so operation complete. Support's available again. We've done retreat. We've done pursuit. It's a very small pursuit here. No offensive reserve movement. Remove interdiction markers. Again, it says, oh, here we go. Interdiction markers. That's an interdiction marker. All right. Are there target units in adjacent hexes or hexes occupied by operating units? Yes, there are. Are there operating units in the target hex? Yes, there are. So we do offensive interdiction. So again, I can spend this to slow them down. And I like how that works. So I'm going to do that again with the 6 halved to 3 for a +1 movement cost for everyone. I've got to keep that in mind. It also applies to the Americans as well. I announce the attack. I know where the VCs are. They are still in cultivated terrain. It should be exact. Oh no, I have lost my headquarters. So what if I can't pursue with this, right? Can I do, if any eligible unit eligible to participate in an operation, maybe assigned to a operator moves full. Okay, so basically during, I believe, if I understand this correctly, during the offensive reserve activation, I can move my headquarters up here. So I didn't need to use that airlift, I guess. They may participate in combat, but they are not considered when computing pursuit bonus. If they're the only units attacking, I am a bit lost by that. This is the offensive reserve activation, 6.10.2. I'm assuming this reserve applies to artillery. 2.4. Okay. Units which are marked blah blah blah. Yeah, there's a section on sort of eligibility for operations, and it doesn't say non-headquarters units or anything, so I'm assuming headquarters are eligible. Anyway, yeah, so I'm a little bit confused by that. I guess in terms of, because basically you have, according to the flowchart, you have pursuit, which is your pursuit result, +2, plus the unit's pursuit modifier, +3 for the American infantry. They get 5 movement points. Then you've got the offensive reserve activation. Any allied unit eligible to participate in an operation, headquarters, may be assigned to the operation and move its full MP. They may participate in combat. Okay. So I've just moved the headquarters up. Okay, we'll see what happens. This is where I'm not sure on the rules. I hope I'm doing this correctly. Right, so now we go back to the circle. Are the target units? Yes. Are the units operating in the target hex? Yes. Do I want to attack? Yes. Offensive interdiction? Done. +1 on this hex. Announce the attack? Done. Defensive terrain? Cultivated area? +0. Exactly the same modifiers. I have got my 15 artillery halved to 7.5, +9 is 16.5. Still an 8. They're still a full strength VC unit. 2-to-1 odds, +2. Let's roll and see what happens. A 4. It is slightly better than usual. So we're looking at the 6th row now. Column 4, 2 VC losses. So their reinforcements are out. But if I saw, we've got strength of 9 +2 is 11. 11, 6 is 1 American loss. Okay, so the same applies to them. They can take off one of their units to satisfy that loss, but there's 3 strength units here, so it's kind of a waste. So instead, we'll just take 1 US replacement out of their 4. So they're now down to 3. But the important thing here is that the VC losses, VC replacements are now at 0. So the next hit on this VC unit is going to wipe it out. That, however, won't happen because we get to the retreat phase and this VC unit has to retreat. Now they get their full MP. Right, now this this jungle is going to cost 2 to move into, +2 because they're in an enemy occupied hex, so 4, +1 for the interdiction is 5. And they can't do that, so they can't retreat, and I believe that means they're wiped out. So the Americans have wiped out at 70th Regiment, and again they win the scenario. So here we go. That is Operation Starlight. So a few queries. Are headquarters, do you allocate headquarters as operating units? Here we go, I've got the example of play here. So in the operation, blah, blah, blah. So in the example of play, it looks like no units are designated as operating, which makes it hard to kind of follow these little details. And in this example of play, there is a pursuit. Does the artillery move? They attack. It's not clear. Yeah, they don't really move. All right, look, I'm going to check those details, but yeah, it seems to be pretty tough for the VC. They need to be able to get out of there quickly and move. They need to have good die rolls on their alert. Yeah, and of course the random placement kind of screwed them over here because they'll furthest from the mountains. If this was the VC unit, they could have probably more easily have gotten to the hills. Once they get up there, they are getting a -3 dice roll modifier to combat, which is going to affect combat for a start. It's going to make it fewer losses for them, more losses for the Americans, and it's going to hinder the American pursuit as well. And they can really kind of pull back if that wasn't the political section. All right, folks, so I've got a few rules details to check, but look, I hope that's given you a bit of an overview of kind of how a typical operation works. Thanks everyone for watching, and take care.